What are UFOs and where do they come from? The search for extraterrestrial evidence has been a storyline for centuries. I'm your host, Jason Medlock. In this episode, we will speak with Roderick Martin, host of Extraterrestrial Evidence. The question we all want to know, we all want to understand, is are we alone? Roderick Martin is a MUFON investigator with the UFO Network, and he's Texas certified. He's a field investigator, and he is all over the state of Texas and the country searching for evidence of UFOs. Roderick witnessed his first UFO sighting when he was 12 years old in Dallas, Texas. Mr. Martin became curious about UFOs, the subject matter. He's just interested, which led him to many years of research. Today, Roderick has one of the largest UFO clubs with over 23,000 members on Clubhouse audio app. Roderick hosts a podcast on YouTube channel called Extraterrestrial Evidence. Roderick is also a new TV host of a new UFO show to air on the Discovery Network. Roderick has several upcoming film projects to be aired on two additional TV networks, Fox, Tubi, and Forbidden Knowledge TV. Without any further ado, we're going to welcome our guest on Unwoke, Mr. Roderick Martin. My brother, how you doing?
Doing fine. How about yourself?
Man, I'm doing good. You know, it is very, very exciting to have you on the show. I've been tracking you for a long time, and just the advice and just the little things that you've done to help me catapult, my streaming opportunity with spirituality. And I'm just glad that you took the time to come out and kind of share some of the things that you've been doing. But I guess everybody's, we're two good old guys from Dallas, Texas, and I'm in spirituality, and you are this rising star in the extraterrestrial, the UFO evidence space. Roger, how did that start?
Well, I wouldn't say so much of being a rising star as opposed to, but I appreciate the compliment. I really do. As opposed to being in the right place at the right time. That's
Right.
simply where I am. And we're at a time where, had I been talking about this subject matter 5 or 6 years ago, no, or 10 years ago, then they'll label you as cuckoo, right? So it's one of those things that time has come. And being in the right place at the right time, discussing this particular topic matter. And I think it's a sense of urgency for it. So definitely is one of the reasons that drive me into furthering the research and everything else. So,
And I know that everything you've touched, you've done a lot of different things over the years, and
mhm.
and when we had the conversation, and you said, hey, come on my platform on Clubhouse, and you said, you know what, I know you're into spirituality, Jason, and I know that you have a lot of knowledge, but I'm gonna bring you on my Clubhouse app, which I absolutely thought was the coolest thing that anybody could do. And there you sit with 20 plus thousand members. And you said, here's my buddy. I grew up with him on Hendrick Street, and you were down there. I mean, I forgot the name of your street, but this is my guy. He knows what he's talking about. Jason, can you enlighten enlighten the people on this platform and speak to some of the things that you know about spirituality and how it relates to the topic? And I'm like,
You're
there
throwing out
you,
there.
and people there it was, you put one of your childhood friends down, literally, and people started to inbox me, people started to follow me, and it gave me the confidence. But before any of that even happened, tell us about how it transpired. Give us the background on everything you had to do to even get that opportunity on Clubhouse.
Well, I mean, first of all, let's deal with nothing just happens. Okay, everything is orchestrated. You know, we know that. So with you being on the show that day, as well as us growing up in the same neighborhood, and all of a sudden today, uh, you know, our roads are intersecting and going on the same path
Yes.
within this phenomenal that we're in, from consciousness to the UFO phenomenal. And, you know, first of all, you know, for people who are viewing this right now, even some of the people that, you know, from our clubhouse or here, and they're posting in the comments, I want to thank them for being here as well. So to answer your question, you know, it all began with me, you know, of course, on Fernwood, down the street from you. You know, one evening, I said about 12 years old. I was walking outside. It was just about where you know how it's just getting dark. So the stars are coming out and then the sun is setting. So it's dark over here, a little light over there.
I ain't heard Fernwood in a long time.
I know, right? I know, right? Oh, there's my guy Nick, and Nick is a former intelligence officer.
Yes, sir.
And this guy here, he does a lot of vetting and background for a lot of the investigations that we do on our channel. So,
Great.
great guy there. And so, anyway, we pretty much, you know, I was outside and I saw this little disc just flying by. It was kind of whitish. It wasn't making any noise. Now I know today it doesn't have any propulsion system, but right behind it was like two jets. And I thought that was strange.
Right.
Okay, strange. And you know, I'm like, dang, let's just, you know, look at that and pretty much. And so but not understanding the significance of that moment, because again, we grew up in the neighborhood. There was a lot of bullies up there on that corner by your house at the store,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Around the
then
corner.
yeah, right around the corner. You ain't going up there talking about I saw a UFO last night, you know. And I already had the nickname what I had, right? And so you're like, okay, you're not going to do this. So it became my secret. And over the years and months, again, I did not realize the significance of that moment. But as I began to explore the UFO topic, watching TV, of course, we all seen the movie E.T., right? E.T. phone home, you know, and, you know, third encounters or first encounters of the third kind, all these different movies that was in our younger days. And of course, for those of you, if you don't remember, those are big us who says it's the pound sign. You guys call it hashtag today. So that's when that movie came out. So anyway, over the years, I started looking more into it. And as I got an adult, you know, you pay your own bills. So I watch Ancient Aliens. I subscribed to all the channels and started really digging deeper into it. So that passion for that phenomenon, or the curiosity is the word I would like to use today, grew. And therefore, you know, I have a crazy story how I ended up becoming an investigator. And today I am a certified UFO investigator here in the state of Texas for the MUFON network. So, but yeah.
And you know what? You know, just the fact that, you know, I have a background and you know, similar type thing, and in your background, and people, we all went to high school together, and to see, you know, the level of commitment in such a um, you know, highly charged field of
Yeah.
speculation, but to see a fellow friend that is respected. And brother, we're going to talk about the Discovery Channel, and we'll talk about
Okay.
Tubi and Five. We're going to talk about. We'll get to that,
Let's
but
get to that
but
whenever.
just the fact that this field is full of experts, and to bulldoze your way through, and you know, with hard work, it's just, you know, it's just phenomenal. And that experience you had as a 12-year-old boy, and when I can remember when I was growing up, the only thing
Right.
I wanted to know was, what are we alone? What's out there? You know,
There you go.
I would
Mhm.
just ask my sisters, you know, how many planets are in the universe? I mean, in our solar system. So I totally understand where you're coming from, but I guess I was curious with my sisters, and they would tell me, yeah, we have the sun, we have the, you know, Jupiter and all that. Who sparked your curiosity? And you know, obviously, seeing a flying object at 12 years old, you're like, whoa. But when did it come back? And was there anyone that was a catalyst to move you forward in your journey?
Well, I think, you know, growing up with having imagination, And then also curiosity, and we all know how that works, even with our children, that they're young, and so their knowledge gap is pure at this point. And that's
Yes.
why they ask those questions, why? And then you'll tell them why, and they keep going. That's that curiosity. Now, over the years, that get beat out of them, right? Because you get to tell mom, say, shut up, or I'm gonna whip you or something. But we got to gain that back now as an adult, especially with this type of phenomena and consciousness. The curiosity has to be rekindled. Okay, so for me, that started happening. Not only, and we can get into that, being growing up Christian, in the Bible, the stories, and then you start seeing when you start looking into the UFO phenomenon and go past UFOs to who's in them, where they come from, what's going on with this, or how are these things showing up? And then that takes you into the extraterrestrials. Then that takes you into ancient civilizations. Okay.
Yes.
Things that now we have the Bible that says this is the story here, this particular date, but things that predate that shows we got temples, we got pyramids, and in these pyramids are inscriptions and showing former past civilizations, life, and everything else. So now you go, okay, wait a minute, I'm reading this, I'm seeing this. So, and you can't just walk up and ask everybody, what the hell is this going on, right? And so you start to go into it deeper. So as I got older, I started digging in deeper, and then you get to a point of no return because this rabbit hole is deep. And now I'm in it, and it's just the matrix, right? I'm in it. So
You're in it. We're gonna do a quick reset, and I learned that from you. We're gonna do a quick reset. I am Jason Medlock. I am the host of I'm Woke. I am with Roderick Martin. He is the host of Extraterrestrial Evidence. If you want to follow us, go to YouTube and just simply type in I'm Woke. And for Roderick, just simply type in Extraterrestrial Evidence. That's his YouTube channel. But Roger, we have questions out here, and this is from Tereska Harrison. What is the UFO sighting that capulated you into studying UFOs? And I think she may have mentioned it, but just go ahead and tell her again.
the one that catapulted me into this would be probably, if that's, is that the word? I'm not even reading it.
Yeah, catapulted.
Believe me. Hey, we all on the same page. I'm sending
Right.
Damn, I just received it. Okay, yeah. I didn't, y'all. I really didn't. It was a joke. So the whole point is, when I was 12 years old, Tereska, and right there on Fernwood, I was looking up one evening. There was a UFO, just coming across the sky. It was like a white, kind of an oval shape, and there was two jets falling behind it. And from that moment, like I said, I realized we wasn't alone as I look back on that moment, but it definitely sparked my curiosity. And then when I start seeing TV shows and other things, it just put two to two together. Oh, you know what? You saw a UFO. And then you start hearing the stories. Don't talk about no UFO. So it was a secret that I kept for years. Didn't talk about it in high school. Didn't talk about it to anyone, even to family members and nobody. You just kept it a secret because it was also dubbed at that time. There was either there's crazy people who talking about UFOs, or there are some people who are considered, smart about it, right? But then all of a sudden, when enough crazy people are talking about something, then you start going, they may know what they're talking about. So,
Roderick, we're going to get off into a lot of different topics tonight, but one of the main topics that's really, really, really just interested me is that we know that we're not alone. We know that there are sightings, and that's why you're, even in the field, because you're searching for the truth. You're searching for the evidence, but we've had people actually abducted, and they've
yep,
told their story. And my brother, you've actually done documentary style video and talked about that.
yep.
Barney Frank, Mr. and Mrs. Barney Frank. You've
Barney
done.
Hill, it'll be
No,
the
I'm
Hill.
sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Barney Hill. You've done extensive research about that. How did, when you started to really analyze that case study? Can you tell the audience a little bit about about it, and what what transpired?
Well, let me take the audience back to, UFO abductions or extraterrestrial abductions has been in countless of history stories that we've had over the years. And oftentimes, if you look in some of the movies and stories, they talk about it. But then over time, especially in the 40s and the 50s and 60s, people start coming forth about their experiences. And one in particular was the case of Betty and Barney Hill, which was the interracial couple. So he was black, she was white, and already what was happening back then. Especially in being interracial, and then all of a sudden they want to talk about they have been abducted, and that story was one of the greatest stories. In fact, their niece, which is named Kathleen Martin, I've had her on my show. I got autographed books of their story behind me, and everything else. But what made this phenomenal is that, unlike all the other abductions, Jason, was that when they split them up, they have been abducted, they told their story, they split both of them up, and they did this kind of a hypnosis type thing on them, or regression is what we call it. And they were able to give out some pertinent information, hieroglyphics, different things that normally you wouldn't have had. And then all of a sudden, their story started, because they had not talked. They didn't ask them the same stuff. And they find out under hypnosis that there was some time loss of time, which is something that happens a lot when you get abductions, because it's just tradition that there's a loss of time. So their story became well known, well written about, and they still had people that was debunking their experience, because you had that going on back then. But now today, where we are today, it's kind of like redemption. A lot of the stuff that's coming out, because a lot of people don't know, the government is telling us now they exist. But, the mainstream media, it, depends on what you watch, you will hear it and you're not hear it. So their story is one of the greatest stories. I encourage people to get their book, look at it, read it, because it's a phenomenal story as they go down and describe their experience.
Well, Paul Law says, "What's up, Jay?" Hey, Paul, how you doing? This is interesting. I have a story about something I remember when I was young that I couldn't explain. How many times have you heard statements like that? That's normal, huh, Roderick?
That is normal. I probably have, over the last 10 months, have interviewed and probably talked to 500 people. Now, this is during my Clubhouse tenure, and we'll get to that. I think you asked me about that earlier. And also being a certified Texas investigator. And doing that, there's protocol and procedures that we follow. When somebody just reports something, we just don't say, okay, you're not just going to believe them, right? And although I'm a believer, I still take a unbiased approach to every particular case. You have to, because sometimes people lie. Sometimes they give us fake photos, and oftentimes I can get into that where you can't do that. People don't know. I can check the photos, the metadata. You're talking about, you took this over here this day. Once I go into the details of the pictures, which is hidden in there, you was over here, you took it 3 years ago, and I'm like, okay, come on, please. But I don't tell you. Don't tell the
badge. I'm an investigator.
I'm an investigator. So and they might say, oh, I saw this thing, and I saw it clear as a bell, and then I go into the underground weather, and I can go exactly time, wind speed, and I can turn around and see if it was cloudy right where they are. Check radar, it was cloudy, Right. But they say it. Now, when it gets down to somebody's experience, it took me a while, but I developed a concept of, I believe you believe. And what this allows me to do when I'm talking to people, because you can't really verify an experience, something that they mentally have experienced. So when they're talking about abductions, or like he said, something I can't explain, normally when they can't explain it, it's not a visual. Because when it's a visual, they can give you a concept of, it looked like this, or it sounded like that.
Right.
But when they can't explain it, now we're in here. And when we're in here, the best approach is, I believe you believe. And when I say this, to say to that person, they might, because they're looking for somebody to vacillate with them. And I'll say, well, do you believe me? And that's how they want. And I'll have to say, I believe you believe what you saw. Mm-hmm. That's the part I go.
Well, let's take a look at this right quick. I just want to get your reaction to it. Now, I'll go ahead and add it right now. Here we go. And Roderick, I don't know how to explain it, but we'll see.
Long ago, never to second guess the relationship with the visitors. It is the most complex, most contradictory, most extraordinary thing that has ever happened to mankind.
I don't talk about UFOs. I can't stand the term. There are no such things. We've known for years what they are.
The government's important because they have the radar systems. They're in a position to connect, collect the data.
People in the national security world are dealing with the fact that this is a lie that has gone now for so long. How do you undo such a long-standing series of deceptions?
I've met contactees in France, in Italy, in Switzerland. These people are telling stories that are so abnormal they could never make them up.
Darby King says, "Thank you for giving us your children. I want to go home."
I remember them putting a needle through
Tell you what,
my optic nerve.
you know,
She was having it. Yeah.
you
And they
know,
were able to
it's
put
amazing.
something in the back of my eye.
These things are apparently.
Okay, we're gonna get off of that. I want your reaction. First off, why the cover up? Why the cover up? Secondly, people are actually being abducted. I just want to get your reaction.
Let me start with first of all, Whitley Strieber, who was the first person that was in there. He's written a book called Communion. I've had him on my show, and I used to watch him on TV. Now, he's in my phone. We talk, right? And so it's and there's a comment down there. Nick, he says he believes it's in that DNA, and pretty much. But I think what's happening here, first of all, the cover up. It began back in the 40s and 50s. There was a Brookings report that was sanctioned or commissioned by NASA that they wanted to take a consensus of how the public would, take this UFO phenomenon if it was released to the public. Mm-hmm. And of course, it came back, says, don't tell them. They can't handle it. In fact, they even said that in this report that the scientific community will be the hardest hit mentally, and we can get into that why a little later. But these abductions start happening, so they began to cover up, because you got to think about it, and I'm gonna do it in more comedic form at this point. We all watched the movie, if you hadn't, Men in Black, and you remember Will Smith in the movie, and he was introduced to, there was extraterrestrials or the Men in Black program, and that very first night he was sitting out there on the bench with Tommy Lee, hit the character, and Will Smith looked at him and says, "Why the secret? Why cover it up? People are smart." And he looked at him, he said, "You're right. A person is smart, but people are dumb and stupid." And that's the reason we have to cover up, because people can't handle that. People, mentally as a group, you begin to have mob, you got hysteria, you got everything. Our whole foundation in deities, number one, that stuff that we believe in out there would just plummeted and crashed. So you're not going to have that. So then also you got cover up from the government, because you got technology, you got things that they want to reverse engineer some of these things. So because you got weaponry, you got there's so many elements involved. But have people been abducted? Yes. And it's been said that at one point our government had treaties with extraterrestrials allowing them to take so many people. And now you get into, cattle mutilations. There's so much things. And so I think it goes all the way back to the very first question you asked in the beginning. Are we alone? And why don't people believe that? And that goes all the way back to the simple philosophy. There's nothing beyond the sky, right? Or they see the stars. I don't know why they think that we wouldn't be. But when most people can't get out that box, of curiosity, is it something beyond that? Or if we go into religion, and the religion says that, the stars in heaven and however it was created. I'm not going to go there with the audience today. But the whole point is our belief system won't allow us to know that there's something beyond a human being. And yet we got all these things on the planet. We got all these animals. We got stuff coming. You looking up in the stars, you gotta know that it's a possibility that we're not alone. And people just won't get that curious. Now, just like they said here, what's the problem? Well, you got ufology. You got people like ourselves who have been telling the public for the last 50 or 60 years, before I even got here, don't believe the government. They're liars and they're hiding everything. And I mean, you're talking protests, you're talking everything. Now the government is giving out that information today, right in our eyes. And now the public's like, oh, shit, I don't believe them. They lying again. So we done trained them for that. So that's the problem that you have. And I think it was just pretty much, one of the ways of doing that. And people got to know. Now, let's not put fear out there. They're not just selectively saying they're going to come for you, whoever's listening. But definitely there's a lot of scenarios. But now people are being more contacted through consciousness, and that's where you come in.
And I was about to say, now we're getting ready to get into my stuff.
Yeah. And now it goes a little deeper than that. So my part is to first take the curiosity approach of UFOs. I start doing that. And then I realize it goes beyond that. So now I'm going into the extraterrestrial side of it. What's in it? Where are they coming from? What's the technology? What is the government covering up? And now that more people are coming forward saying, wait a minute, I was contacted last night. Oh, I've been having these dreams. Oh, wait a minute, sleep paralysis. Somebody, all these things that we think was just some type of kook stuff at night could possibly be contact, because it's real deep when it gets to that. So.
And as the audience can tell, I'm smiling because this is so interesting. It is so interesting. And I guess I'm known as the spiritual guy that comes on Clubhouse and sells Roderick and the audience on the UFOs are benevolent. And what I mean by benevolent is that they are spiritual in nature. And we wonder why. Well, why don't they just show themselves? If they have all this technology, why can't we see them? And it's because we are not evolved enough consciously. They look at us as children, maybe not even children, but maybe even microbes. And these UFOs, these extraterrestrials are so highly evolved. They're waiting on Earth, humans, to evolve consciously before they are able to interact. Now, I know that there are secret programs that the government has, and for all we know, they're already on different planets. And we've seen several documentaries, Roderick, about us having a secret space program, cosmic disclosure that's on Gaia. They regularly talk about our military is out there in space right now, visiting other galaxies, participating in different type conflicts, resolving conflicts. What do you say to that?
Well, I tend to want to believe like this. You want to believe everything that you hear. And of course, our slogan and tagline is time to believe. And I think that, when it comes down to these secret space programs, there's also being all of these different black ops programs. You got Project Blue Book, you got all of these different ones that's out there. There's many, I can name tons of them. And they're all segmented in different parts of the government. They're and even when you think our government act as one, they don't. Now, when you talk about secret space programs, and then we think about being in space, but then you also see us as humans here working to get into space, and then you got time travel, you got all these things that what's the situation here? Are we seeing ourselves in the future? Are we coming back visiting? Or but at the end of the day, I think that as far as the guardians out there is where you're alluding to, they're the Galaxy Federation is what they're calling it, Galactic Federation, all these things out there that's supposed to be the protectors of the realm of where we are. I have no particular evidence of that as opposed to me just learning and studying it. But I take a different approach than you. You talk about benevolence. I interpret what they do as a possible threat to us. And that's a line drawn, right? I believe when you got things, when you got things that, are anti-gravity technology that we don't even have, instant acceleration, where these are what we call a 5 observables, where this thing can go from here and here, reach high rate of speed like that. You got hypersonic velocity. This thing is traveling 3,500 miles per hour. We have nothing that fast. Low observability. This is where they're potentially cloaked. We can't even see them, okay, in some of these spacecrafts. And then you got transmedium travel, which is one of the greatest ones, and we probably touch on that, where they can come from space, go into the air, and then go underwater. We have nothing, no technology that we know of that can come out of the water, except for a missile probably, but can come out of the water, go into the air, and then travel up in space. But yet this is happening. We got extraterrestrials. So if they were to engage in battle with us, how do we defend ourselves? Now, do we got weaponry? Yeah, we do. We got some stuff we ain't seen yet. We got the most feared military might in the world, United States. So I don't know why people think these other countries can put up with what we have. They just don't. But at the end of the day, I don't think that all of the extraterrestrials, just like humans, are nice things. Or,
well, they're gonna come for you a little bit, and then here we have questions. Why would you say the extraterrestrials? Why would you say the extraterrestrials are friendly observers or not friendly? How can you tell?
Well, I just finished a documentary, which will be shown on the Discovery Channel. Okay, and that whole document is based on military encounters in the government.
Wow.
I'm interviewing people, guy that his father, and I'm telling the show. So I'm just going to hint. This guy's father
just a little bit
was ordered by our government to fire upon a UFO, and a few of them didn't live to tell about it. Okay. Why? Did the plane crash, or did the UFO say, hell no? And so we have had many incursions where they have shot down things, turned off our weaponries, disengaged our missiles, and all these different things. Now, some people could say, well, they just trying to teach us a lesson, or it's a power move, but either way, unbelievable. So the question would be for everybody who's looking, why you got car insurance? Just in case. Why do you, and so why do I want my military to be on full alert? Just in case.
Well, I have a question for you, Roger. I mean, maybe not a question, but I have a statement. Could it be that they created us? They seeded this planet. We're simply brats with toys that could harm humanity, let alone the delicate fabric of the earth. We see climate change. We see nuclear activity. Could it be they're saying, put that down? How do you respond to that?
First, I respond with what my mom used to tell us. Boy, I brought you in this world, I can take you out. So if they created us, they definitely can make that statement. Okay. Sure. So now, are they unhappy? So picture you standing on your front porch. You just had a good glass of wine, and you look in your front lawn, and there's a big old ant nest over there, and that thing start flaming. And you walk over there because you can. This is your domain. This is your yard. You stump up over there, and the ants are just having a battle. The red ants and the black ants, you seen the little thing, and you are just tired of it, and they're about to burn up the yard because they're using nuclear weapons. They're using these things, right? That's the metaphor I'm using. So you're going to go over to Home Depot and exterminate the whole colony because you can do that, right? So that's the other side of that. When you say, if they're unhappy with our actions on this earth and all these things, could they retaliate? Because let's get deep with this. We got civilizations that have just totally disappeared off the planet, and we don't know where they went. We can start with the Mayans. The calendar stopped. They disappeared. The whole civilization gone. Where did they go? How did they get there? Where did they go? And so somebody wiped it out. Yeah.
Well, you and I can get into portal technology. We can get into the alignment of the pyramids. We can get into the portals that are surrounding the earth. But before we do all of that, let's go back and let's talk about the secrets that are out there. We just talked about that. And here are one of the secrets that I really, think that we should be talking about. But here we go.
Have been documented on the Solomon Islands for years. And mysteriously, details reveal that the UFOs seem to rise out of the surrounding ocean where warships sank in World War II and vanish into a remote mountain lake on the island.
People often talk about seeing light not only in the sky, but in the ocean as well. That you see lights in the ocean and then you see lights flying past overhead as well, and sometimes crashing into the ocean like a plane crash.
There have been sightings of flying saucers appearing over the wreckage, flying into and out of mountains and volcanoes in the area. So the whole area is really pretty interesting.
There have been reports that objects, strange lights, actually rise up out of the waters into the air and move about for a period of time and then disappear. And often this is either witnessed from the beach or is experienced at close hand by fishermen. And it's said that sometimes these objects come so close that the fishermen can actually feel the heat as they pass.
There was a lot of local people who had said, yes, for many years we've seen these types of things happening.
Okay.
Now, the greatness of Richard Dolan, him and I is going to be in a TV show in 2 weeks. I'm going down to San Antonio to film one for the Fox Tubi, which is going to be a documentary. He's in it. We have the same agent now, so we usually now be in some of the same stuff. I'm like, yeah. But anyway, all right, let's get down to what you just showed.
Roger.
First of all, yes. You ready?
They have been here for centuries.
Well,
and we don't have, you said it a minute ago, we do not have the technology. They're jumping in and out of the water. They have this ability to move at the speed of sound, even underwater. Unpack it, please.
Okay, so let me give everybody the basics. The Earth itself is 73% water, which is the foundation of how this, same as the human body, is predominantly water. Okay, so that's another story. But the whole point is we as mankind have only explored 3% of our oceans. 2, we don't even have the technology to go to the bottom of the ocean. We don't even know what's there. We've been here all this time and we have never been to the pure depths of the ocean. Now, I'm a UFO investigator for the state of Texas, and 93% of our UFO reports come out of water. Okay. Now let's get into deeper. What you just saw in this video, they said a lot of fishermen and everybody else reported, but now what do we have that's coming to public light through congressional hearings? All these Navy people are saying they've seen these UFOs. Now the correlation between that is that all of our nuclear subs, nuclear aircraft carriers, and I'm using the word nuclear, or ran by nuclear powered engines. And so therefore that is an attraction, because usually when there's a landing or something, there's always some nuclear radiation. So obviously our nuclear facilities, all of that stuff attracts them. Now, when you get down to what we call OS, underwater, submersible objects or whatever, again, these things are coming in and out this water, coming up out of the water, and some of them are going straight into space. And so I think that, let's see, we actually communicate. Yes, there's already, we'll get to her question in a minute. So I think, so for the most part, the water simply is saying that they could have been here for years, and they could have been here for a long time. And we don't know this because, again, that is a perfect place besides the moon, if we ever get in that conversation, for them to observe our behaviors and what we're doing. And so why not be in a place that we can't go, right? Yes. If you want to hide from somebody, why not go and hide where they can't go? So we can't not go there, and we can't go to the depths of the ocean. And like I said, that's a perfect place. And there's been submarines that, if you look at some of the military footage where they have these radar, and the radar will show something fly by, and it's normal now. It's a normal occurrence, and they don't know what it is. It just zooms straight on across, and it's an anomaly, but it's an object zooming through the water. And we just say, okay, no problem. We can't, we don't know. So,
well, let's do a quick reset. If you guys are just joining us, my name is Jason Medlock. I am the host of I'm Woke. Tonight, our guest is Roderick Martin. Roderick Martin is the host of Extraterrestrial Evidence. Also, he has done a number of documentaries, two of which will be coming out in 2022 with the Discovery Channel. He's a Clubhouse favorite with over 20,000 viewers. If you want to check Roderick out, you can go to www.roderickmartin.com, roderickmartin.com. Also, you can find him on YouTube channel by simply typing in Extraterrestrial Evidence. Also, if you want to find I'm Woke, we're on YouTube as well, and just simply type in I'm Woke, and you can follow us on Facebook and just type in I'm Woke. Roger, we want to get to the questions. And the cool thing about it is we have some classmates on here, and we're all something years old. I'm not going to say the age, but Tasha Carroll said, I hear you speaking of seeing UFOs. In your opinion, do you believe that there will be ever actual communication between an extraterrestrial and a human?
Absolutely. And to answer that, Tasha, is that it's already happening. It's been done to happen. Our government has captured or retrieved extraterrestrial bodies. There are stories of us already having alliances and treaties with extraterrestrials in Antarctica. There's just so many stories. So the communication process, especially on a governmental side, has already been done. It's been done even in the Germans and everything else. And so they definitely have done that. Where it's getting a little tricky is if they stepping out those boundaries and now are having human contact with the population. And this is what the phenomenon is driving now, because people are coming forward that they've been communicated with, or they having these conscious experiences and all of these things. And so the government has to kind of like debunk this. But there's also correlation between, as Jason mentioned earlier, our history. How did we get here? What was the creation? And that goes all the way back to the Bible. It goes back into all of these stories that we can look into. So it's just, how curious do you really want to be? And that goes for you, Tasha, and anyone else. If you're curious and you begin to ask those questions, man, you will not be not just disappointed in what you're going to find out, but you'll definitely be what Jason would consider woke.
Let's
awakened.
Let's get the D Nunez. The government understands something humanity as a whole is just speculating about, and only those who are aware notice correlate the signs and symbols that correspond with what's being observed. Roger, what he's trying to say is the people who are in the know and the people who can match some of these ancient symbols up, this stuff is real. If ancient people have been able to leave this evidence behind for us, and we've gotten these professors, we have all of these ufologists following the breadcrumb trails. What do we have here?
Well, I think I can't say that they're leaving us breadcrumbs, because they don't have to do that.
Sure.
They want to just reveal, they can just pop up, right? But I think that something that you touched on earlier is not that they understand humanity. They know our conscious ability to interpret what we know. They know our field of vision or insight. And the last thing you're going to get is an extraterrestrial show up on the White House lawn, particularly, or anywhere, and upset the whole cycle of humanity. Because I've always said this, and I know I get in trouble for this sometimes, but I've always felt that, and I've interpret this from all my experience now, research and everything else, that my personal interpretation is that not only if they was to show up today, our community, will be one of the hardest hit psychologically when it comes down to them revealing themselves, because it's just something we just can't have a conversation about. And that goes for not just blacks too, but I segmented that because I'm African American, but it'll start with religious people first, cannot handle that. Now, when he goes back to those symbols, there are symbols in our everyday, our dollar bills. There are symbols everywhere that reflect an extraterrestrial culture and their power over what we do today, as though that they dictate that now. And people can't handle that. And so that's something that, and I think I told you, I wouldn't even be here today. I was married, I'm divorced now, but I was in a house just a year and a half, 2 years ago. I couldn't even talk about this in my house. Now I didn't do the King Kong on the man of the house. I should be able to talk about what I want, but now she just controls some other stuff. So I got to listen. So at this point, the trade-off was shut the hell up, watch the TV at night when she go to bed. But because she comes searching for me in the middle of the night, I'm busted. She walks by, I'm watching Ancient Aliens. She's pissed. So the same outcome,
we've all been guilty of that.
So the same outcome is happening at home. But here's the deal. So I remember, and I'm telling this story because I think it's important for people to know. I wanted to become an investigator so bad. So I'm telling my wife then is that, hey, this is something I want to explore, especially for our community, blah, blah, blah. There's a gap there. I'm looking at this. It's hitting me in the middle of the night, right? And it's obvious because I'm watching on TV. There's a gap here. Yes. And so she's telling me, no, don't. Are you crazy? Now, there was 3 stepsons, and they became her kids when we watching alien stuff. Don't show my kids this. They're my kids when it's time for bills, So yes. Here's the deal. So I almost gave up because she just particularly did not want me to explore it, and I was going to be the good husband, because it wasn't that she was, just didn't want to hear about UFO. It was affecting her mentally because she was in the Bible, that I'm sitting here reading things, especially in the book of Genesis, that says God said, let's make man in our images and like ourselves. And I'm like, that's a poor God. What are you talking about? And then she's seeing it as the trifecta, the Holy Ghost, the Spirit, and I'm like, nah, come on.
So Roger, so basically what I hear you saying is the reason why there isn't disclosure. This will disrupt millions of people's thought process, their religion. It would be chaos.
Society would break down as we know it, because religion is the law, is keeping people intact. That's what it was designed to do. And if that breaks up, then people is believing another higher level than the money people, the rich people, the stories that we are told to do.
But brother, what we're trying to do? We're trying to wake people up, and we're going to get it done. But let's get to some of our audience, and then we have a lot more to cover. Taruska's back on the scene. She says, also, I read a book years ago about UFOs, many UFO sightings in Peru. What's so special about Peru? And maybe let me answer the first part of this. All over the world, there are pyramids.
Mm-hmm.
And we just say, oh, there's a great work of art. That is a great structure. No, ladies and gentlemen, those are power centers. Peru has one of the biggest pyramids in the world, and there are power centers, and they're aligned typically to different star systems, different star clusters. They're aligned to different portal systems that are right outside of our atmosphere on this earth. Now, those are interesting sites for UFOs to visit and to maintain these power centers. And I'll let you go ahead, Roger, but that's some of the research that I've done. And it all points back to the pyramids are made as markers, as indicators, and as centers of power.
I think what happens is, and I know I'm gonna get off course, but I want to finish that other part of the story. I have to, because it's just my purpose. I would have been the good husband and not talk about this subject matter, and I wouldn't be sitting here today. Unfortunately, our issues had issues. And so 3 months after a part that I was going to go sign up to be an investigator, she said she didn't come home. We was down to one car and I couldn't do it. Where I'm going with this, and it's powerful, and I want people to kind of understand, I was always being driven that this is something I needed to do. Now, I can't say, like I said, my marriage issues had issues, but here's the deal. We separated. I went on to decide to get my certification, and we got a divorce real quickly, a few months right after that. And here it is, less than a year and a half. I have 2 books that's coming out that I signed contracts for. I have a TV show with the Discovery that is possible. They're now saying it's good enough that they're going to greenlit it for a whole seasons. Okay. I just signed a contract with Forbidden Knowledge TV for 8-episode series. I just did a deal with Fox News Channel Tubi, where I'm going to film some of that next 2 weeks. And I just got hit for a show that's predominantly in the area. And this one I can't really tell about, but this is going to be the biggest of them all. And it was just an idea I had. And just so happens I'm at dinner in LA, just finishing up the TV show. And I just shared with this guy who was sitting next to me. And I was so disconnected from everything. And I got to tell y'all this, and then we'll get to your thing. But I'm a talker person. But that day I wasn't talking. And the guy sat right here and he said, "Hi, Roderick, blah, blah, blah." And then he asked me if I had kids. And I said, yeah. And everybody's over there talking. And he looks at me, Jason, he says, "Go ahead. Ask me about my kids. You can do it." And I felt so embarrassed because I'm a talker. And come to find out, this dude was just listening to my story, approached me after, and he said, "I'm going to make that movie with you. We'll totally fund it. We'll put it on the History Channel. You're the man." Wow. I was like, okay.
And people, you and I had talked prior to this, we were going to hit all that at the end, but I'm going to let you, you have sometimes.
We'll come back with that, but let's go with your question. Go ahead.
When we run this show, we kind of let our guests go wherever they want to go. But since you did go there, and I'm glad you went in detail, the significance of where you started, what you had to go through, and where you are today, it's absolutely a tribute to hard work and the thirst to bring humanity in front of this issue of extraterrestrials, and where are we with it? Are we alone? And it's guys like you that are out there, guys like Josh Freeman and those guys that are on Clubhouse, and you have a fabulous group of people who follow.
Oh my God, I got a supporting.
Yes.
I have people that I was telling people that I needed to lose a few pounds, and okay, it's the obvious. All right, come on.
Sure.
And man, I started getting blenders in the mail. I'm getting everything. I mean, my community was like, "We need you here for this." And so where I'm going with this, even with you, this is not happenstance. You came into this, and once you begin to wake up into this higher consciousness, it is your duty. This is not something that it's not a ministry. It's in the importance of our origin, our history, and it answers those questions. I would not doubt everybody who's sitting here listening is having those questions. Where do we come from? What's the truth? What's really happening? And they're feeling these feelings. They're feeling these pokes and nudges, and they want to know why, but they're not curious enough. And some are afraid to venture out and just start asking questions. Because if you do that, it changes the whole ball game. And so I felt compelled to begin to do that, because here's the deal. Even with Clubhouse, when I got on Clubhouse, it was my ex who said, "There's this thing called Clubhouse." And I said, okay, this was January. This is this year. I said, okay, let me get on the app. And at that time, they wasn't letting everybody start a club. You have to apply. And I was going to do some on MLMs, right? Because I used to do that. So it was going to be called MLM, Money, Lies, and Manipulations. I'm going to go at that, right? And so, but I said, no, I'm going to go with extraterrestrial evidence, because something said, do this. So all of a sudden, they approve it. She did her club. And I just wanted 30, 40, 100 people to talk to, because I didn't have nobody to talk to. Can't talk to my friends, my cousins, not on that level.
Because they call you cuckoo.
There you go. So all of a sudden, it went from 100 people, then 200 people. And then all of a sudden, Clubhouse said, okay, we want to run this creators program, and we want people to create some on the app. So I said, well, hey, it'd be good to do a UFO show. So out of 5,000 people, they chose me to do a pilot show, which I had some of the big names on there: Billy Carson, Linda Moulton Howie, and a lot of folks. And I won, in which they then start paying me to be one of their creators to do a weekly UFO show. And so now my club turned from 100 or 200 people today, 23,000. And so once again, so I get this thing on Clubhouse, and now I'm influencer. They're paying me to do content in a world where I couldn't talk about this a year ago. So for me to be growing this fast and quick, It is no doubt that I'm in where I'm supposed to be. And my job is to learn and explore and gather enough evidence for you, the people, to look, to just awaken your curiosity to the possibility that we're not here by ourselves. And that's what I do. And I'm going to continue to do that and take it to the next level, because it's a whole new life for me. That other one is over there. I'm now in a whole new shift, and it's just crazy. And it's a lot of pressure. But at the end of the day, it is worth every moment of the journey.
I'm gonna read some of the comments, and you don't have to necessarily respond to all of them.
But I want to get back to what you asked earlier, because I didn't want to jump off your subject matter. So go ahead.
So I'm interested to find out. This is from Josh, and I love Josh. He has some very, very interesting takes on your platform, and Josh has his own platform on Clubhouse as well. I follow him too. Josh says, I'm interested to find out if these UFO crash retrievals mentioned in various books are true, and if our evolution is different from what was told with in Darwin's theory. Now, Nick Larkin came back and said, most likely our evolution does follow Darwin's theory, but there has been a cataclysmic event that sent more evolved versions of us underground or underwater. It's the breakaway civilization theory. Now, Roderick, you and I talked about this on the phone maybe a week ago. I was talking to you about the new human showed up on Earth after prehistoric man. All of a sudden, the new human showed up. And I guess Darwin's theory sort of has to be debunked at that point. And I know that's a really, really deep topic, and it throws us off the kilter. But let's go back. And Brother Eric Simeon says that pyramids precede Egyptians. Yeah, there were pyramids before Egyptians, Eric. And Eric Simeon will actually be on the show next week. This is a deep brother, Roger. And you have to meet him. He's very, very Anunnaki driven. Yes.
Well, I think one of the things when you talk about Darwin's theory, which for those of you, we evolved from apes. Let's go through evolution. I'm assuming that's what, if I'm not mistaken, it means. But the key to this is, if you go back to the book of Anunnaki and all of these Enochs and the giant and how we was created, so to speak. When and I'm just saying Enlil, when the gods said that, hey, we need a new slave to mine gold and all those things, we're going to make human, and they sanctioned to make it. And what one of the gods says, or the kids of the god said, they're already here. What you seek is already here. And this was at that point, there was supposed to have been some ape-like type of individual walking around, that then we were spliced from, because the God made us in their images, that we were spliced to create where we are today. So now, could that be the mix up in the Darwin theory or evolution of time? And you get what I'm saying? So they still coincide when those stories connect at some point, but that is some of the stories there. So I'm just touching on it a little bit.
Well, Eric said, Eric Simeon, he mentioned Antarctica. When Admiral Byrd flew over the continent, he stated that there was a body of land bigger than North America. That means that the Earth is larger than we were told. These beings you speak of are right there. These so-called leaked tapes of UFOs flying at high speeds are our own technology. How do you respond to that?
So he's saying that now Antarctica has a story of inner Earth. Okay.
Yes.
Admiral Byrd was an admiral of the United States, that they were approaching at some point a base in Antarctica that was ran by the Germans. And supposedly at that moment, upon us getting ready to attack or come to that area, we were attacked by a defense of UFOs protecting them. And that's when Admiral Byrd said, hey, this is something here. It's able to fly from one end of the continent to the other quicker than anything we have ever seen. And so that was one of the stories. And ultimately he came back and they admitted him into the crazy place or whatever. And he died supposedly fell out the window. Okay. Now back to what Eric is saying, these beings speak or right here, meaning Antarctica supposedly have a hole in it and supposed to have what we call the center of Earth or inner Earth, and that they was already there living there. Now, Jason, I'm gonna get deep with some of the people here. If you all go back to the latest, and all of Hollywood movies show us a lot of these things. So let's go back. If you remember, Jason, the last movie, King Kong and Godzilla, right? And the ultimate battle that they had, and yes, they ended up going to where? Center Earth. That's where he was supposed to be from. So there's supposed to be life that exists there. There's supposed to be extraterrestrials in a whole new world that was already here, been here all this time, and still here, that exists in that area. And still today, Antarctica is one area that no country can go and do that. So pretty much. Now, I'm only saying this, and he, like I said, he said it's not the story. So maybe he can elaborate which part he's talking about.
And maybe you'll chime in on him next week when he's on the show, and then you can get him to tell you.
We can do that. We can do that.
What story is it?
So, but now, and don't get me wrong, all of this stuff that we talk about, depends on where you get your facts and everything else. And I'm always curious enough, because I'm not what we call literally lazy. And what that is something that I talk about all the time is, for example, with Eric saying, hey, that's not the story. Now I can take a stance if I'm literally lazy and say, oh yeah, I know what I'm talking about. So what happens is you ask the questions for whatever. So how that works with people is sometimes we believe something that is true. Then you ask enough questions to find out that it may not be true. Then there's something that is not true that you believe, that you ask enough questions to find out that it is true. So anytime, we get across that, because one thing that I'm a real advocate of, and this is something I'll tell people to be cautious, what I've learned, is that you'll get a lot of people who'll say, they'll ask me questions. They do this on Clubhouse a lot.
Sure.
Have you heard of I'm making this up right now. Have you heard of the Big Bang thing? And sometimes I'll just say, no, hell no, I haven't. And then they'll walk away saying, oh, you don't know everything. And then at the end of the day, what I've learned is some people will say they're experts and they've been doing this for 20 years. But if you listen closely, they've been talking about the same thing for 20 years and they think they're expert. So it depends on where you go. And I'm not talking about Eric or nothing, but I'm just saying that allows me to open up my curiosity. So if somebody say you're wrong, I stand corrected, because nobody knows everything about this thing. Nobody really knows what the UFOs are really doing and extraterrestrials doing. No, if anybody said they know all of this, now I would say no.
Well, let's get to what the type of things that you do in your show, and what catapults you into these new opportunities that you've been going on to. So we're gonna go. Let's dive into you real quick, my brother, and give you a little.
The government want to capture UFOs. Did you hear me? I said again. Our government wants to capture UFOs. I am Roderick Martin. Welcome to Extraterrestrial Evidence, where I have a simple purpose here, and that is to gain enough extraterrestrial evidence that you could see, that you can read, that you can experience, or evidence that you are told that would at least awaken your curiosity that we are not alone in the universe. Now I host a podcast, Extraterrestrial Evidence, as well, and also just finished filming a new TV show on the Discovery Network and Travel Channel that will be aired about UFOs. And so also, if you want to go to Clubhouse, if you've heard of the Clubhouse app, I have one of the largest clubs on Clubhouse, over 22,000 people. And I do a weekly show, and that's weekly with 2 E's, W-E-E-K, not W-E-A-K, 8:30 Central, Wednesday night. You don't want to miss it. But anyway, why are we here? We're here because the government wants to capture UFOs. Did you hear me? I said it again. Our government wants to capture UFOs. Right now, sitting in Congress or the House of Representatives, there is a bill, which is the HR 4350. Now, this is the 2022 DOD military budget or money contributed to the military. In this particular bill, our military wants to establish a permanent UFO task division, which they want to actually just kill the A-tip, which everyone knows about that. But at the end of the day, they want to start a permanent UFO division. Now, one of the things in that bill is a lot of different things that is needed to gather information on UFOs. And ultimately, I'm with the program. One of the things that stick out the most is that there is a part in there that the government says they want to capture a UFO. Yes, you heard me. They want to simply capture a UFO as well as explore discovered aerial phenomena as well. And I'm thinking, discovered, are you saying now you're admitting that we do have some already that you want to explore? Now, you guessed it. This goes against everything that we talk about because there's all these factions when it gets down.
That's got you hot across a lot of different platforms. You have several of these informative type shows that are on Extraterrestrial Evidence channel on YouTube. You've caught the attention of the Discovery Channel, Tubi, and the one and only Billy Carson on Forbidden Knowledge TV. Roderick, are you sleeping? I mean, you got a lot of things going on, my brother.
Well, you know what? One of the things that I try to do, and it's been I do get some sleepless nights, and it's not because of the information that's blowing your head up, and when you see these kind of things, it's two things that are contributing. And one in particular is, all right, I'm thrown in this thing, and I'm pretty blessed. I truly accept where I'm going, and I would have it no other way. And sometimes you got to ask yourself, why is this happening? This is because I've talked to people that's been around ufology for years, and they'll say, I've been doing this for 30 years. Now, I've always had dreams years ago that I was going to do some big things. You're going to really, and I used to tell my ex-wife, I said, I'm going to give them something they never seen before. I used to walk around the house to say that, so it was kind of crazy. Right. And I will never forget when the Discovery Channel, and I said, why did y'all choose me? And they looked, and I was doing a Zoom call because at that time I really didn't believe they wanted. And I was like, right. They talking, and I'm staring over here, and they finally said, Roderick, stop, look into the camera. It's a Zoom. I'm looking. She said, this is real. This is real. You're going to be a star. And I was like, oh, my Scooby-Doo. So anyway, I said, why did y'all choose me? And these are her exact freaking words. Because you're something we never seen before. And I used to walk around the house saying that. I'm gonna give them something they've never seen before. She said, something we never seen before. We and it's not just about the data. It could be personality, it could be energy, it could be whatever senses that they had to say, okay, this is a guy that we want. Now the other opportunities just start coming. And so now you're faced with, sleepless nights. You want to prepare yourselves. So I don't mind. I put this out in public. Okay. So now, I wanted to get my body together, and because, hey, I might have to go up a hill and observe a UFO, but I want to walk the walk, and I can get out here, but I want to physically and mentally, as we know, and get that center eye and all this other stuff here. We'll get into that in another conversation to come in alignment, because there's something
third eye chakra.
That chakra. And so I got books on my third eye. I'm studying that. I got audio. And so, I don't know, they can see my Egyptian eye here, a raw, but the whole point is go ahead.
No, I want to, because we're going to have to wrap it up in a minute, but I want you to talk about the relationship with Billy Carson and how he brought you along, and you and I, and when you got the Discovery Channel call, I'm gonna brag because you called me before it even happened, and you told me about it, and we talked about it, and it happened because it was meant to be, but then even before that happened, even before you really got a foothold in Clubhouse, Billy was there giving you the advice. What has Billy Carson meant to you?
And for those who don't know, Billy is he's known for forbidden knowledge. And if you want to learn the forbidden knowledge, you definitely and I serve in his royal. These are our crowns. I don't know if they can see that, but well, let's see if it focused there for the crowd. But there we go.
There it is. There we go.
Yeah, this is jewels, real jewels, and everything. This is our crown.
I didn't get one, but that's okay. I mean,
you're gonna get one. You're gonna get one. You're getting part of the, and so, but Billy has always been very deep into, and he's built a massive following. But I've always learned years ago,
including me.
I've always learned that your income and whatever it is directly proportional on what you give back to humanity. Yes. So you wonder why the Facebook guy is so rich? Well, he and Amazon, they put systems together for billions of people. They can't by default. So Billy has amassed a huge number of following, and he feeds that following with information. So it's no different than, if you want to go to church and learn some stuff, but he goes deep from Egyptian to tablets to body, the whole 9 yards. So I'm still trying to figure these things out. And so I'm getting to know him. So what happened when I was doing my pilot show, someone gave me his number and said, why don't you call Billy? Now, of course, this guy's larger than life. He's out there. He's huge. And so I pick up the phone. I call him and I said, this is Roderick. And he answered the phone. And I told him what I was doing.
Whoa. I mean, here's a guy that, has well over 2 million followers.
Oh my God.
You just called him and he just said, hey, this is Billy. Who is this? And you cold called him?
I cold called him up and he answered the phone. I told him what I was up against. We had a private conversation, and that conversation was that I'm dealing with some things in the ufology community. I have no navigation for what is happening and what I see is coming. And he heard the story. He heard where I was going. He started explaining to me some of the visions and different things that I was having, toward success of what I was doing. Sure. And so he took me on his wing. He said, here's what we're going to do. This is what you got to do. And I said, okay, no problem. And, but when I asked him to be on my pilot show, he said, okay, I'll show up. And we just kind of bonded from there. And where we really bonded was that, I would talk to him and I would just simply say, hey man, what's going on with your day? And he was used to be shocked because usually people are tapping into him from the other side. They want higher knowledge. They want to feed from, but some told me, hey, this is the individual, which he is. And I was like, hey, brother, what's going on? So we would talk at night just about regular stuff because that's the separation. And I say this because when I'm on Clubhouse, I'm talking to hundreds and hundreds of people, thousands coming in and out the room. And the minute that show is over, I'm in my office in my war room by myself. It's quiet. I'm not talking to nobody. The phone, Josh will call me throughout the day or something, and we're different people. But most people think because you have this huge audience that you got this following and you're out there that people are just around. But then when that light is off, you're human. You're there, right? And so that's how we connected. And then, of course, he's advancing. He's going public, and he's doing his own TV show. And he calls me up, or his own channel like Gaia and all that TV. And he calls me up. He says, "I want to talk to you about something." And I think I was talking about money or something. I said, "Man, I want to get out of Brokeville. It's crowded in this town, right?" It's crowded in the town of Brokeville.
It's crowded in Brokeville.
Oh, it's very crowded. And he said, "Well, you ain't got to worry about that no more." He said, "I want to do something with you."
I like that what Nunez said. If you can see it, it can be manifested. That's good.
There you go,
brother. But
there you go. And I don't tell a lot of people that side of the story, but I'll just share it with the audience because people don't know you can really go that deep and seeing things like that. And so he was like, okay. So we, of course, he sent me a contract and I have an agent, and they're going through negotiations. And so I turn around and I told him, I said, well, they would like, we're going to pay for your flights and to Florida. And I said, well, I need some, big seats. I'm big for my age. And,
you're only 35. I got it.
Yeah. Another way of saying I need some first class and some stuff. That's what space is, right? So he come back and he says, not only we're going to fire you first class, which is, I do that. Everybody fires me first class anyway. But he says, I'm going to pick you up at the airport with a chauffeur with a Rolls Royce Phantom. It's all in the contract. We're going to treat you like a king. We're going to do all this. And I'm like, hell yes, come on with it. And just to go through the experience.
Yeah, brother.
And he's saying, I want to treat you like a king because you are a king.
Yes, brother.
And he said, everybody, we're going to treat our people like kings. He said, you're going to get picked up like royalty. We're going to pick you up in the Rolls Royce, Phantom, your hotel, everything is just pure. And I just thought that was like, bam. And I said, someday I'm going to do the same thing for other people as well.
It's all about,
you heard me say it right here. So
it was all about, giving back. And I want to, can you just give the audience something, Roderick, to leave them with something of inspiration, leave them with something that is fascinating, leave this audience with something that says, you know what, Roderick Martin I like him, so we can close this thing out.
Well, only thing I could probably say will be, let me just kind of think here. I just want you to be curious. Yes. And I stand for that. Yes. Because curious will allow you to grow. And for me, I'm at a point in my life where we all inside of us are fertile with eggs to produce something. But one thing we should know when you talk about an egg itself, if an egg is cracked from the outside, life ends. But if it's cracked from the inside, life begins. Everything begins from the inside. And from there is our new beginning. And that's where curiosity starts. And that's where people should begin to get curious and asking those questions. And you want to be around people that are not offended by curiosity, because that's a challenge.
Yes.
Because based on my experience, I've been in a relationship where if I say, explain that to me, and you ask that a couple of times, the other person on the other end starts saying things like, you don't believe me? Now, I'm not saying I don't believe you. I'm trying to be curious, because it's no different, as I leave y'all with this, is if I told you that this will cure your aching pain, some people are going to say, well, just because Jason or Roderick said it's $20, I'm going to buy it. And then there's going to be some people say, get away from me with that charlatan. Both of those are literally lazy, and they're not curious, because the person who I'm giving this to should say, well, what evidence do you have that worked, Roderick? What documentation, what study that it helps for my particular element versus do you know about that? So that's no different. So be curious with everything from now on, especially anything that somebody's telling you. And I'm not saying you're contradicting them for an argument. Just let them prove it to you. You might find something that you didn't believe to be true. And then you may be able to convince that person that what they thought was true is not true. And that's where we are. And that's what I would leave with everybody. Be curious.
Well, brother, I want to thank you. And again, I cannot express how excited I am for you. It feels like I've been in the back seat on this ride with you, because I've heard you express these things.
But you got to remember, anybody in the same car, in the same vehicle, back or front, is traveling the same speed, down the same direction, and with the same destination. Know that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want you to hang out in the back office while I close this thing out. But what a fabulous show. Roderick is something special. He is anointed. He has his calling. He knows his direction. And I applaud this brother. And I think that we all should look at the things that are out there, the things that bring us together, the things that make us curious. We know that we're not alone. At least we should. And the question is, can we be curious? Can we be curious enough to just open up a book, to just study this phenomena, to try to find out truly extraterrestrial evidence? I am Jason Medlock. You have been listening to I'm Woke. I am excited about today. I'm excited about tomorrow. Follow us on YouTube. I'm Woke. Just simply type in I'm woke. My website is jasonmedlock.com. We speak about spirituality. We speak about manifestation. We speak about channeling. We speak about visiting the Akashic Records. And we talk about UFOs too. That's all a part of all of it. Until next time, good night, and thank you so much.